Perfect. All right. So, fulfilled relationships through esoteric astrology. Yeah, it's a huge topic. And just as a disclaimer in front, we'll not manage to discuss everything related with this topic in this webinar here. I think that's obvious. So this will be kind of an introduction, but already very wonderful key information and some practical knowledge for you to apply in your life already here. From the time I'm aiming to be done in about 1.5 hours, already including the question and answers. If someone has to go earlier, as I said, you will have the recording afterwards, so that's not a problem at all. Yes, if you want to stay longer, I'm also up for more deeper question and answers afterwards. So yes, feel free. There's more in the chat. Yes, thank you for the gift. You don't know yet what the gift is, but it will be nice already. But maybe you meant the recording of it and or the session in general. But yes, for me, it's a gift that you come here now and that we can discuss this wonderful topic just before Valentine's Day. So let's jump into it. So, table of content, always interesting to know what we're up to. A short introduction of myself, because some of you maybe don't know myself yet at all. So, who is this guy actually who will talk here the next hour and a bit about astrology? Then we'll discuss love languages, different love languages in the natal chart. So that is kind of the main topic right now. And then there will be 3 very important keys for fulfilled relationships. It's basically practical keys, practical secrets, or methods also to apply in your life, to use astrology also to make your relationships and also your life and yourself also more fulfilled. Then there's coming the gift for you and only for you. So this will, for the people who joined through the Telegram group, this will also not be posted there. This is only for the participants here. Yes, that and maybe for the ones who will later on buy the recording and catch the gift in time. Yes. So, and then afterwards, a Q&A session to answer your questions. I would ask you to, if you have questions, keep them for now, write them down somewhere and ask them later on when we come to the question and answer section. But for now, to make it a little bit more practical also, you can, if you want, write your name, your date of birth, your time and your birthplace in the chat. If you want to serve as a practical example during the webinar, to have kind of a chart to look at, to see how it plays out. We'll not dive too much into depth there, but also it's always nice to have some examples. And if you're not shy to expose yourself to the others, but are kind of hungry to know, feel free to write your name. I mean, not the full name, doesn't have to be, just to know from whom it is, the date of birth, the time of birth as exact as you know it, and the place of birth. Super. We have already one example. Perfect. And the second example. Super. We'll see how many examples we'll catch. But yeah, I was thinking of 2, but we'll see. Maybe we'll get a 3rd one inside. Super. Amazing. Very many courageous people. So then let's continue with the question, who is this guy actually with a bit shorter hair? I'm Leonard. Hi, nice to meet you. For the ones who don't know me yet, I'm studying astrology for a bit more than 10 years and a bit more than 7 years approximately. I do it professionally, as you say it. I mean, you kind of say professional in the moment that you take money for it. And this I do already since 7 years approximately. I had consultations with hundreds of people. I didn't count exactly, but it might be that I'm already in the thousands could be. But yeah, definitely I crossed through many different charts and life situations. And yes, I teach already multiple classes and courses in astrology. And I'm a Tantra yoga student since 8 years. So I think I see many of you also following the same wonderful path than me, but maybe some of you are coming from a different angle to this webinar. So why is this important for this session? Of course, always when it's about esoteric astrology, the spirituality of it plays a big role in it as well. So the own understanding kind of this domain is quite important. And I had many experiences in the domain of spiritual relationships now already since 8 years. And hopefully, I can share a few wonderful insights combined with astrology for you that might be interesting and helpful and useful for you in your life. Let's move on.
You're muted, Lennart.
Oh, I'm muted. Since when? What did you hear last?
Just before you change slide.
Yes, since the last slide.
Okay, yes. So I just said, let's dive into the short overview of the astrological language. I was just reading the headline. So here we go. The astrological language. What does it mean exactly? It means the bricks out of which the language of astrology is built. And this is only a short overview here because we'll not dive too much into the depth now here. But we'll have one of the fundamental bricks of astrology or parts of the language of astrology are the planets. These I often describe if you view astrology as a language as the who. If you build a sentence, it's the who, so to say. We have, for example, the planet Mercury, which is about the domain of the mind and the communication. So we'll kind of personalize the planets, and it's an easier way to look at these domains in our being, to view them as beings, as persons, so to say. And it makes sense if we put it into this view of a language, because then next we have the astrological houses, and they are the what in the sentence. So Mercury is doing what? Mercury is in a certain house, is doing a specific action related to that house. And then we have the signs, the astrological signs. Everyone heard about them. The 12 signs of the zodiac, and they describe the how. So how, like you can also say in what color or what frequency, so to say, this planet is manifesting. This is just a quick introduction to know what we will talk about. We'll mainly focus now in this webinar related with the relationship astrology on the planets and the houses. The signs we'll discuss briefly, but we'll not go into depth of them. We'll discuss briefly the elements and of the signs and how they play a role here. Yes. I would love to discuss everything extendedly with you, but then we would sit here a whole weekend. And I can, a little disclaimer, I'm working at the moment as a full course about relationship astrology, but for this webinar, we'll focus at certain domains to not go too superficially at everything. And then, of course, we have the aspects, which describe the relation and the interaction between different planets in our chart. This aspect of aspects we will not discuss in this webinar for now. This will make it a bit too complex for today. So let's move on. This will be, yes, there's one more message. The slides are not fully visible. Is it for everyone zoomed in? Because I usually don't think so. It should be fine. I think this is a setting for you, Claudia. No, for who was it? Kolla. Yes. So it's good. I think you just have to find a way to zoom out again, have the bigger picture. So the elements of science. When we will go through the different planets related with the topic of relationship soon, we always understand that the planets are in specific signs. So the each planet, so to say, each domain of the planet is manifesting through one of the 12 different energies or frequencies, and these are the signs. It's very good to understand them, each of them deeper, and kind of get a grasp of the energy and the frequency of them. For now, we will focus on one aspect of the signs, which is the element of the sign. We know the elements: earth, water, fire, air, and also ether. So 4 + 1 element. And they describe some fundamental qualities of these signs. And we can collect them into groups of 3 signs together under one element. Maybe that's not new information, but it's good to revisit it and to understand these qualities, because they also describe these 4/5 differences in the different languages, how they can manifest. So let's see. Yes. If, by the way, if there is an issue or something along the way, you can raise your hand, because I will not read the chat all the time. Yes. So, starting with the Earth Triad, under which fall the signs Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. The qualities of this Earth Tattva or Earth element are mainly stability, commitment, structure, and simplicity. To give an overview, these qualities of stability, for example, are manifested in each of these 3 signs in a different way, because each of these 3 signs are focused in different areas of existence. For example, I make this example once and then we go with the same information in mind through the different signs. For example, Taurus is a sign ruled by the planet of Venus, the planet of love and beauty and so on. So the stability and commitment and structure and the simplicity is focused in this domain of life: love, beauty, harmony, so to say. This is where this quality of this earth element is needed or manifested when we have the Taurus manifested. When we have Virgo, on the other hand, manifested, which is also an earth sign, but ruled by the planet Mercury, the planet of the mind, the practical mind, of communication, of knowledge, investigation, and so on, then the structure and the stability is in the domain of the mind, so to say. This is then with certain patterns, with certain methods, with structures in this establishment. And this we can translate on all of the signs. They are focused in different domains if you go deeper. But overall, the fundamental quality of stability, commitment, structure, and simplicity applies to all 3 of Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Yes. So we move on to the quality of water. Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces are the water signs. And the quality of water are the capacity to be social, to be sensual, sensuality, the language of the emotions, and intimacy, and the capacity to be intimate, there are for each of these elements also more qualities that you can describe there, but this is just for you to get a little peek of the resonance to feel it now, and for the ones that are very new to this, to have a little, let's say, pre-knowledge for what we will discuss next. Then we have the fire triad, the sign Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And the element of fire is the quality of dynamism, a certain fiercefulness, the need for visibility, to be seen, and passion, to be passionate. You could also add adventure, for example. That's another quality there. Yes. And this, again, in the different domains related with the one aspect that could be interesting here would be the expression also. Fire needs to express itself, but this is under the instance of visibility. Yes. Then the element of air, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Intellectual, the need for freedom, the communication, and eloquence. Yes. And again, on the different domains. And we have the fifth element, the ether, under which all signs fall that are close to the cusp. In astrology, we have then 30 degrees for each sign designated. And if the sign is very close to the beginning or the end of these 30 degrees, it is, so to say, in a certain hiatus moment. It is in a transition moment from one sign to another sign. And when it's in this transition phase, the energy of Akasha Tattva or ether is present. And all signs, so to say, or all planets that we have in a sign that is on the cusp, on the edge, so to say, they manifest this quality of ether, which is spiritualizing, moving towards transcendence, moving towards the essence of that sign, and in a certain observing, detached perspective upon that quality. Yes. So just a short overview. Yeah. If something is unclear here, we can gladly discuss it a bit more in depth later on if we have time. But I'm a bit fast-paced moving through this one, so we can discuss the juicy parts a bit more in depth. Let's see. The love languages in the natal chart. Maybe for the ones who don't know what the natal chart is, I assume it's kind of a common knowledge, but sometimes I assume things that are not valid. The natal chart is the birth chart, so the astrological setup at the moment of our birth, and including all the planets in different positions, in different houses, in different astrological signs, and is a snapshot, very briefly said, of our karmic structure, our karmic footprint for this life. Big words, but yes, just as a little introduction. One of the fundamental languages of love is described by the planet Moon. The Moon is not actually a planet, it's astronomically speaking a satellite, but in astrology, we say planets to all the things in the sky. We are simple people. So, the Moon describes the language of emotion. And of course, this is very important if we engage in any intimate encounter. And also to understand ourselves, language of emotions and the fundamental needs. Then we have the planet Venus. It's the language of attraction. Extremely important as well in relationships of any kind. Then the planet Mars, the language of the erotic energies. Also very important. Yes. And then we're coming to different type of languages which are related. That might be something new for someone who only had a toe, so to say, in astrology so far. The cusp of certain houses, astrological houses. When we make an example, it will be more obvious later on. What does this actually mean? But there are 12 segments of a chart as well. And the beginning of each of these segments is in a specific sign as well. And this is what we call the ruler of this house. We'll get into this a bit later. But this cusp describes, so to say, a certain language as well of ourselves. And there are certain astrological houses that are a bit more deeper related with the topic of relationship. And we have the 5th house cusp, which is related with the language of excitement. Then we have the 7th house cusp, or also called the descendant, the language of polarization. And then we have the 8th house cusp, or the 8th house. I missed the cusp here. The language of intimacy. These are the aspects that we'll focus now during this webinar. I want to say, first of all, I would actually talk about much more because when we come to relationships, actually all parts of our chart is involved because we are a holistic being. So when we engage with anything, we involve our whole being. We cannot just involve partially some aspects of ourselves. Nevertheless, there are certain domains of our being that are more involved in relationships than others, in most relationships at least. So for the for this webinar, we'll focus on these major aspects, just as a disclaimer. Let's move on to what the planets actually describe in general. The love planets. But this is also valid for other planets, the not so loving ones. The fundamental capacities and domain of our being. I made this example before with the planet Venus, for example, as the planet of love and beauty and attraction. Actually, we'll discuss this planet in a second. Or the domain of the practical mind. We have domain of spiritual aspiration, the domain of responsibility, and so on. Of the individual, different. Our being has different layers and different aspects to it, and this is described by the planets. Yes, in fact, all planets are involved. That is true. When it comes to the topic of love and relationship, yes. For example, our basic zodiac sign, the sun. We'll not discuss it here now, but it is fundamentally important in relationships as well. But let's say it's more general because it's the fundamental drive, the engine of our whole being. And of course, it is present in whatever we do, relationships, job, spiritual practice, whatever we are doing. So yes. Focusing on the most important ones regarding love. I'm repeating myself. Of course, it is very helpful to know your whole chart and everything. And for this, people do astrological consultations. By the way, I'm offering also some. Yes, but also, of course, first you can study it yourself, read in books and everything. But for now, let's dive into the love planets. And we'll start with the first one, the moon, the language of emotions. The moon describes in our being that what we truly need. And now as we go through these aspects, the different languages of love, have in mind, this is always important for yourself. So also to understand your language of love in a way and your setup, your inner setup, as well as the languages of other people like this. This is very fundamentally important. So have this kind of this two-sided perspective in mind while we discuss this. So the moon, what we truly need. The moon is this very intimate inner voice, so to say, of our being, and is manifested through the energy of the emotions. But it's pointing to something deeper that we call the fundamental needs of our soul. And the moon is the main benefactor to reveal to us the fundamental needs of our soul. And this is something very important, especially also in the relationships, to be fulfilled like this. If we don't involve what we truly need, then of course also the relationship cannot be fulfilled. And if we understand, for example, what our lover, our friend, our family member truly needs, we can make them much more happy like this. So, very important aspect. How we deal with our inner world is another aspect that the moon is describing, meaning the way that we actually internalize our awareness inside, and then how we are able to accept the inner world, the inner emotions, the inner states, and everything inside. Because for example, if there are in the astrogram difficult aspects towards the moon and so on, in difficult positions, there are positions that are more easygoing a bit, more tough a bit, then it can be more tricky, so to say, to get in touch with our inner world and to have this inner state of self-care, you could say in that way. Then it also describes how we deal with our emotions. How we express our emotions. And this, for everyone who ever had any interaction with another human being, and also a bit more on a non-formal level, on an intimate level, knows that to master your expression of the emotions, meaning to first of all express them, to talk about them, to show them, to be vulnerable in that sense, but also, on the other hand, to express them harmoniously, not in an uncontrolled outburst with mass destruction. It's a very important skill. And to understand how this is done, it is important to get in touch deeper with the moon. And for this, if we want to understand the moon sign better, we have always, with each planet, to understand the sign and the house of this planet. So this is very important to dive deeper into it. And then the question, how we take care of another being and ourselves. Because the moon is, on a symbolic level, connected with the archetype of the mother. And this is what the mother does, taking care, nurturing. And first of all, if we don't know how to do this with ourselves, if we don't know how to listen to what we need, take care of that, no chance of doing that with another human being. I think we agree here. And even we can try to take care of the other one, but this will be in a superficial way because we are not deeply connecting, so to say, with what the other person truly needs. There are something we can say is that we can describe as superficial desires that we don't truly need, but that we think we want. And then there's that what we actually need, what our soul actually needs. And this discrimination capacity is if we get in deep resonance with our language of emotions, the moon. For women and for men, it is actually also how they manifest their fundamental feminine energy. As we understand in Tantra Yoga, for men, this is connected with the inner woman, so to say, and also the relationship with the feminine energy in general. And this is very much in relation. If we have astrologically a tough setup with the moon, a certain blockage on that level, and then we have also blockage of accepting the feminine energy, which is directly related, by the way, with the energies inside our own being, as well as the connection with women outside and with nature in general. So the feminine energy manifests in so many ways. But for women, it is even more, I dare to say, important, the connection with this moon energy, because it's how they manifest their feminine qualities in the outside. And this is, and how they are in touch. It's much more also how they are in touch with their feminine essence. For example, for a woman who deeply neglects and also, how to say, excludes from her being her feminine nature, often you can see in her astrogram certain blockages, certain difficult aspects related with the moon. So that's an interesting fact. And of course, very important for harmonious relationships to heal and to purify the moon. And at this point, we'll now make a little example with one of the brave ones from the chat. Let's see who I will pick. We take Carolina. If you don't mind. So I will just briefly put up your chart in my program. This will take hopefully just a second. So, and then we will have a little look at one example how the moon is manifesting, to give a brief example in the chart. So we have from Belgium, and from the wonderful city of Antwerpen. I don't know if you pronounce it in this way, but I think it's similar to is right? Yeah, okay. German pronunciation in Belgium, I think it's similar in some ways. So we have a Scorpio. All right. So, and here we go. I hope I put everything right. I will share now the screen with you on my Astro program, and we'll come back to the presentation in a bit. So this, for the ones who never saw an astrogram, this is how it looks like. Very complicated, different things and symbols. But can you see my mouse cursor, by the way? Yes, super, because that's important in all this different symbols. And here, down here, we see the moon sign. These funny lines in the middle describe the aspects that each planet makes with other things. It's the degrees that they relate to others. Doesn't matter for now. Don't be just this moon. This symbol of the moon is the planet, the astrological sign of Pisces. And if we think back of the different elements that I was describing, the sign of Pisces is a water sign. And that means that the inner need, to put it in that way, of the moon is here related with the element of water. What does it need? It needs some sense of intimacy with the emotions on the emotional angle. I will have a little excursion on the complexity here, because we'll discuss, of course, the sign, but also the house of the planet. And it's here in the third house. This is this segment here. And it's the house of the practical mind and the communication. So firstly, there's a lot of need of expressing the emotions verbally as well. That's one of the fundamental needs here. But the fundamental energy of the Pisces gives the how the emotions manifest, how they need to be dealt with. And the sign of Pisces is related with the planet Jupiter. Jupiter is the ruler of that sign. And Jupiter is the planet of the spiritual teaching and the spiritual knowledge as well. It's connected with the higher mind, Buddhi. And it's a very interesting connection here, no? We have the moon in the third house, which is connected with the lower mind, the practical mind, in Sanskrit, the manas. And then the sign itself is connected with the higher mind, the intuitive mind, buddhi. So it is, in a way, to bring a certain intuition, intuitive understanding of things into practical verbalization. That's a tough job. Can be very difficult in a way, because the inner spiritual realm and experiences are sometimes very difficult to actually verbalize. But there is a certain gift here that by sharing the inner states and experiences and spiritual experiences, it is kind of a gift that is manifested here. This art form, I would say, even to describe these very profound realities, into manifest them into the practical wording. But what does someone need in their life with the moon and Pisces? It's a deep need for spirituality. It's a deep need to connect through this emotional language, the water element, with spirituality. So here comes the ruler of that planet, the Jupiter quality, and the water sign, the emotional need, the emotional intimacy with God, with the deepest essence, with their own soul, through a way that is actually beyond words. But for her, it is very helpful to talk about it, to write about it, and everything, to get more clarity in it. Another viewpoint is also to bring the spirituality into the practical life, into practical domains. That's one very important fundamental need here. And I'm just briefly here, I will not go into the other parts of the chart, because if you press a certain button with me, you get a waterfall, and then there's no stopping. So we'll make a cut here. This is just a quick introduction for you to get a feel of how this moon is manifesting with certain fundamental needs here. So we'll jump back to our presentation. Here we go. Ready for the next language of love. Venus, the language of attraction. The planet Venus is deeply related with attraction and the aspect of what we like and what we're attracted to. This is really this statement, what we like, boils down very much to what Venus describes in our being, because it is related very much with the kind of beauty, the kind of art that we like, the kind of aesthetics that we like, the energies that we like in our life in general, but also what kind of people we like, obviously, from what energy they bring. And of course, this is deeply important in relationships, because usually, I hope, we pick people that we at least remotely like before we then also love them. That's important. Because if this energy of liking is not present, this attraction, I mean, still we can love them. Sometimes we don't like our parents maybe, or like this, but we still love them deeply. Or our sister or brother, like this. It's very possible to have these domains. But when it comes to a romantic relationship, you also need to like each other, to have a certain sense of attraction, and a certain sense of pull towards each other, and it gives a certain flourishment in that sense. So that's one aspect that Venus is describing. In the same sense, by the way, also what we are repulsed to, what we don't like. Because in the way, if we say we like especially this part, that means in the same way, actually much more than that, that we exclude all the rest of it, like this. So Venus often is described as the planet of what we like and what we find beautiful, but it's in the same way also about what we don't like, what we don't think it's beautiful, what we find beautiful. Venus is also the planet of the arts for example, like this. People who have a very strong Venus position in their astrogram are usually inclined to be artists in some sense. Doesn't always have to be in the traditional sense of a painter, of a musician, of whatever, of a dancer, but can be. But it can be in different ways as well. For example, someone who has the art in words like this, who always knows to describe the things in the most beautiful way because they have, I don't know, Mercury in a Venus sign and so on. But it is very much for everyone in relation with the way we do, for example, something. If we want to do something beautiful, we manifest it through our Venus point of view. If we, have a romantic date with someone and we prepare the room very beautifully, we'll do it according to our understanding of beauty, of course. And the planet Venus describes our understanding of beauty, as well as how we express love. This is a bit of a bold statement because I think I made this point that love is more multifaceted. Is this a word? I hope so. It's more vast than just manifested through one planet. It is actually how we express our whole being into it. But there is a certain, let's say, nuance of Venus that is related, especially in a romantic relationship. And then maybe more accurately would be here how we express romantic love, this aspect of it. This is maybe more accurate. Yes. Then also the way how we wish to be romantically loved in that sense, because as I said, it's what we like. And is something very natural that makes us open in a way. If we engage, if we are confronted, so to say, with our Venus language. And so this is very important, especially for the people you are close to. If you use the language of astrology, if you want to use that one, and there are also different languages to understand the world, the cosmos, but astrology is one language. If you use that language, it's very good to know the Venus sign of the people you want to get closer to, because then you know how to offer to them that what makes them feel this frenzy, this love, to really feel appreciated. And yes, to fully bathe them in love. For women, this is also related with the feminine expression. We said the moon is also related with the feminine expression, but the Venus is a different nuance in the feminine way. Because, as we said, it's also how we express beauty. And as we all know, women are the manifestation of godly beauty in all the different facets. And if they manifest themselves, if as a woman you manifest yourself, you do it also in kind of a mixture, you could say, between your moon energy and the Venus energy, like that. And for example, if a woman dances, as one example, in the different ways that the feminine can express itself, you can see clearly the Venus energy manifested there through the 12 different aspects that Venus can manifest in, the 12 different zodiac signs. For men, this is also related with the inner woman, but also what kind of woman they are attracted to, because what feminine energy they like, again, here, what they find beautiful and what they like, and so on. So studying the Venus sign of a man is teaching a lot about what kind of woman they're looking for. Some say, what is the ideal lover, so to say? But you have to look a bit deeper into this thing, because it's more like an energy which has to be present there. So for example, if someone has a Venus in a Mars sign, which is a bit of a tricky situation, for example, Venus in Aries or Venus in Scorpio, but then they need their, or sorry, if a man has such a Venus, they're looking for a woman who's a bit more fierce and a bit more like in this fighter, warrior spirit, like this, with her energy. Doesn't mean that she has to be a Scorpio or an Aries or whatever, but that she manifested energy. She can be any sign, but this energy is what is attractive to that man. All right. Ready for the next example? I will look in the chat and scroll through, and I will pick randomly Nina from Denmark. All right. Let's 1 second again until I make the chart. So we have Nina, Denmark, and I don't know this town, but I was living for many years in Denmark, but the topography of Denmark is very poor. I know Copenhagen and Aarhus, I think, and maybe one other city. So let's see. We have it. No, the time. So there we go. Invalid location. I wrote it. Can you write maybe the next big city to happy? I hope it will still feel like a lottery after talk Aarhus. Aarhus is okay. So because my program didn't know somehow this town. All right, here we go. Super. I will share with you. So Nina, we have same idea. Now we're looking for the planet Venus, and we find it here. Also in the sign of Pisces. So we have kind of the same theme, but it's quite useful now because we talked already about the energy of Pisces, the drive towards surrendering to spirituality, to the spiritual guidance. Surrender is one other attribute of the sign of Pisces, which is very descriptive for that energy. And again in the 3rd house. So it's very interesting. We have a kind of a perfect match here. We have the same house, the same sign, just a different planet. So we can get a feel of the difference between Moon and Venus even better. This was set up for us. So the planet Venus again, what is it? What do we like? What we're attracted to, like this. So it is not necessarily, as with the sign of Moon, something that we fundamentally need in that sense to the way that our inner world is working. No, it's not like this. Is something that we find very attractive, like that. So it's from a slightly different angle, finding very attractive everything that is directed towards something more profound, something deeper, towards that is directed towards the relationship with the ultimate, with God, with spirituality, like this. And actually, this is a special Venus position because it's exalted here. I will not go in depth what this means, but it's a good Venus position. It's a strong Venus position, meaning it is connected with a very, now I'm still going into it. You see what I mean with the waterfall. It's connected with the most sublime, most refined aspect of the Venus energy, actually, because we have, for example, the human love that we manifest in. But then we have the love towards everything in totality, because the sign of Pisces is the 12th of the zodiac signs and related, and has the capacity, this is also for the moon in Pisces, by the way, to be able to feel through this water element, because the water element is so much with the emotions and the feeling, to connect with all the other 12 aspects, 12 signs of reality. So, in other words, with everything, and to feel everything. And this is why, in other words, also is the love without object, like this, very much related with the Venus and Pisces, the sublime love, the love towards God, like this. And again, here, this is something that is liked, and is also a very refined type of manifestation of the feminine quality. But in the same time, again, with the third house energy manifested in a practical manner, and also manifested through the words like this. And often people who have the Venus in the third house, you find them often this kind of setup with poets, for example. People who write poetry like this, like art manifested through words or books and so on, just as one example. This is much wider, but to get a grasp of it. People who, for example, Venus, Pisces, third house, reminds me very much of Rumi, for example, the great poet who describes his love for God into words like this. And that's a very, I think if Nina didn't yet to read some Rumi poems, this is something that she would, I guess, really like to make an educated guess here. Yes. So I think you can, and then of course in the realms of relationships, people who have this kind of quality of the Pisces energy, who are deeply focused with the energy on spirituality, this is what she is attracted to on that sense. So on a deeper level. All right, just a quick excursion into the being of Nina. Yes, we will again switch to the presentation. I'm watching the time a bit because I want to catch all the aspects. I mean, I have time, but I don't want to hold you all evening and catch the main aspects before you all have to go to your next adventures. Mars, the language of the erotic energies. We see it gets passionate now. The planet Mars is the warrior planet, we can say. It is very much, often in astrology books you read about how Mars is the planet of action, but it's slightly wrong, because all the planets are planets of action, just in different areas. On the mental level, on the love level, and so on. There are different actions that are manifested here, but Mars is the planet of the difficult actions, of the challenges in life, of when it gets tough. And then the planet Mars reveals to us how we are dealing with challenges and difficulties. And but also, and this is the aspect that we are focusing now here in this webinar about the love relationship, how is the Mars related there? Mars is describing the capacity to control or master the erotic potential in our being. Of course, also how to deal with challenges is a very important subject in relationship, because for everyone who went over the famous energy of the beginning into a bit more of a serious relationship, knows that challenges are meant to happen. If they don't happen, it's actually not a good sign, because that means there's no real transformation. But so if the challenges are coming, we need to have a bit of a warrior spirit inside, and love in general. Yes, there's this nice YouTube clip of this actor Keanu Reeves, and in kind of in a talk show interview or something, someone is asking him, "Are you more a lover or a fighter?" And then he says something along the line from, "What do you mean? I'm a lover and a fighter." And then she says, "But how is this possible?" And then he says, "Because if you don't fight for the love, what love do you have?" And this kind of boils it down. In that sense, I like it very much, this quote of him. So how we master the erotic potential is the quality. For those maybe who are new to Tantra, the most of you, I think, have some experiences maybe. The erotic energy is the most powerful in our being and in the whole cosmos like this. It's the one that is fueling all the rest, all the transformation, all the actions in our being. And if we don't master this, if we are, so to say, a slave of this energy, we'll be a slave to life itself. And the same in the relationships. If we don't master the erotic potential, we'll fall trap into different sense of attachments regarding the creative erotic potential. For example, overly sexual behavior, which is quite often in this time these days, that there's a lot of either frustration on that level, but also a certain indulgement on that level, and not real deeper understanding and control and mastery. Control sounds always a bit like we're trying to suppress it. Mastery is more the essence. To know how you move that energy and do things with that energy because it's your energy. So this is the capacity to do that is described by the planet Mars. If you understand how your Mars energy is working, functioning, manifesting, then you get a glimpse of that deeper understanding. It's also the way how we express passion. If we make passionate love like this, then the Mars energies are involved. Actually, this book, how it's called, The Women Are From Venus and the Men Are From Mars, or something like this. I never read it, but the title is telling already a lot, because it's very much when man and woman when they come together in a relationship in any sense, or when these energies, masculine and feminine, come together, it's kind of a symbiosis between the Venus energy and the Mars energy. The Venus, the enjoyment of liking the beautiful aspect of it, but also the Mars energy who brings the passion and the drive and the direction into the play. And only if these two energies are harmonizing with each other, there is polarity and fulfillment in it. So the question of this webinar, fulfilled relationships through astrology, both of these energies have to be present very much. The passion has to be there. Otherwise, if we don't have this passion and drive in it, then things will be flat like this. They will be nice and flat, but they will not be real transformation and ecstasy. And to be honest, to be truly fulfilled, this is to get in touch with ecstasy in our own being. And we can learn how to speak that language of passion of the other person if we know their Mars position and the Mars sign. And this can be very interesting because maybe it's a different type of language than we have naturally. And as we're not bound to the chuckles of our astrogram, but we actually can transcend all these aspects because our soul is much, much bigger than our karma. I'm making this kind of a side note here, but it's a very important and big statement that we are not controlled by this, but that we can learn to master it and to also manifest different types of languages. And this is very important in a relationship because it's the expansion of consciousness to the questions. We'll make an example now, but other questions not related with the example we'll discuss in the Q&A. in a bit. Yes, so that's very important to understand, okay, what type of passion does the other person need? How do they manifest their erotic potential to help them to be ecstatic also for them and to expand your horizon a bit in that sense? Because if you have two very different energies there trying to come together and no one is ready to make the jump to also try to learn the other language, then it's like you have a Chinese and a Danish person coming together and they're speaking completely different languages and no one is willing to learn the language of the other person. You will not be fulfilled. That's a promise. Like this. There need to be some sacrifice there. For women, it's the type of man that they're attracted to. Similarly, as the Venus was the type of woman that men are attracted to, it's for women the type of masculine energy that they are adoring, as well as in themselves, like this, but also in the outside. It's very interesting to look into that. For men, is their inherent masculine energy, and it's also very important because if you grow as a holistic being on that on every path, so to say, automatically you're involving the tools that you have at hand. And for men, it means their masculinity. For women, it means their femininity. And to use them and to understand them more deeply, what type of gift we have here and how to use it properly. Because, important statement here, each energy we can also misunderstand and mislead and use it not in its full potential and in a limited way and in a lower manifestation of it. So each, for example, if we have Mars in a certain sign, we can look at it or act upon it on a lower manifestation and on a more sublime and more holistic manifestation. Yes. So let's look practically at it. And I again try as much as possible randomly. Let's take Ryan Sherman. Wait, did you put your chart? No. Okay. Then we take Tim. Tim Budwick. Wait, there's a message. 20 to 020. I think this is the birth time. Perfect. So just a second. I will again create the chart. Please a little patience. Tim, we have Libra, if I see it right. Limburg, I think that's Germany, no? Is it Germany? Yes. I don't even know my own country. That's yes, typical city boy. So let's see. All right. Next to Frankfurt, yeah. This I know. 020. Wait, you put 2304 before, but is it 020? 020. All right. Great. All right. Then we have it. And I will share with you the screen. I will share with you Tim. Let's look at Tim. Very interesting. So we have here where my cursor is the planet Mars. We know the symbol from the toilets. It's the masculine symbol, and it's in the sign of Libra. Again, we have it in the 3rd house. It's kind of a common theme now, but we have it in a different sign this time. That's interesting. But an interesting factor here, double factor, we have it actually on the cusp. So in the end of a sign. And as you remember in the beginning, as I said, the signs on the cusp, they're related with the ether element. with Akasha Tattva, as it's also said. So this nuance we'll also look at. And we have it in the sign of Libra, which is an interesting Mars position because it's said to be in exile. Sounds horrible. It's less than that. That means it just means basically that the sign of Libra, which is a Venusian sign, it's related more with the beauty, harmony, and so on, in the realm of the warrior planet. It's a bit, how say, mashing these two qualities together. They have some difficulty here to interact with each other. And some, you could also say there's a certain karma with the planet Mars related with past lives here. We'll not dive too much in depth here. Important here to understand is that no matter how challenging a position is, it always is there for a reason, has a great gift to manifest as well. And a deeper understanding, I'll say, there is, even if it's a challenging aspect, it can manifest in a very harmonious and wonderful way. So, what does Mars say? It's a way that he is manifesting his masculinity, as I suspect him to be a guy with this name. And it's the way that he is dealing in the face of difficulty, and also the way that he is using his erotic, passionate potential. And Libra, it's one of the most romantic signs. It's an air sign, as you remember. And the air signs are, if we think back of this slide that we had, the air signs are related very much with a certain refinement, with a certain eloquence like this. And especially here on the realm of the Venus energy, as Libra is a Venusian sign, there's a certain expression of very refined, beautiful passion like this. And it can be one of the most romantic men, and I'm speaking from experience from friends that I have who have Mars and Libra, that are extremely, romantic from the fairy tales like this. But, and that's the thing here with this Mars position, is that there's a difficulty of acting when it also gets tough a bit. That's a challenge here, because Libra likes it easy and nice and beautiful, but sometimes things get a bit harsh as well, as life can get harsh. And the challenge here is then to be still manifesting courage and the drive towards going through the difficult aspects as well. And related with the erotic energy, also here can be what is very important, so to say, is the right ambience for the Mars and Libra. It's very important to have mastery over the erotic potential, a deep transfiguration, meaning to for example, transfigurate the lover very deeply, see them for their deepest essence and their beauty, but also have beautiful, surroundings, make it very ritualistic, and having nice music and nice scent and everything to make it nice and beautiful. And then it's easier to direct the energies upwards, as an example. And then also to make a certain jump here, because it's a difficult Mars position when things get intense, not to try to stay in the calm water where it's nice and easy, and also in the daily relationship life. For example, if there's a fight or something, but to not run, to stay. This is a very important lesson here. But we'll take into account that the Mars position is at the cusp, meaning it is at the end of the Libra sign, meaning there is some sense of synthesizing the experience here of that Libra energy, that tough Mars karma, so to say, of and planets that are on the cusp, they are able to transform very rapidly on that level. So to say, learning lessons related with that Martian masculine energy, because it's a tough karma, a bit faster than others, and then also to learn to spiritualize it in that sense, to offer it to something higher. And Then actually the next Mars sign would be in Scorpio, where it is in domicile, home, very strong there, because Scorpio is a Martian sign. And here we can see this movement of this lesson in this lifetime that he will. I'm making a bit complex explanations here, maybe, but you can see it is quite complex, and there are many layers to it that I'm not even involving now here. But I just want to give you a little taste of how it works. To use astrology to get deeper in touch with yourself. So, you're welcome. We will move on towards the houses, the love houses. We'll discuss the love houses as one example. So there will be, for now, before we go into question and answers, only one more lucky person, time-wise, to have it a bit faster. So what do the houses describe? Just a quick. I showed you before the houses. There were these segments, and as we remember, we had the moon and the Venus, and actually also the Mars, as you noticed, all in the third house, in the same domain here, related also with the communication in the word. So they describe certain fundamental areas of actions and lessons in our life. We can divide, so to say, the whole experience of life here on Earth into 12 different segments. And 12 different stages of life, you can also say. And like this, there are also 12 different lessons and certain actions that are related with these lessons. The cusp of that house. So the sign that is in the beginning of that house is called the ruler of that house and is describing the certain fundamental teaching, how we master that lesson in that stage of our life. It's a more complex astrological topic a bit. So for the ones that are new to astrology, I understand it's a bit of an expansion here, but I think we can see it when we come to the practical example a bit better. Yes, the ruler gives the attitude to master this area of life. The ruler of the cusp, the corner, the beginning point of that house, because it's actually an interesting esoteric teaching, understanding here that that the beginning point of anything reveals something about the whole outcome, the whole experience of that what follows afterwards. Also for relationships. The beginning moment of the relationship is a very important one. We'll not be able to dive too deep into this one now, but yes, these are very important moments. So the cusp of the house gives a lot of information. We're focusing on the most important houses the same way we could talk about all 12 houses and somehow relate them with the topic of relationship and love, but there are 3 fundamental ones that are most important. Let's look at them. The 5th house cusp, the language of excitement. So the 5th house is a house often called also the house of fun, also the house of children, the house of self-expression. It's the area of life where we learn to enjoy life. And the ruler, the cusp of the house, gives very much information of how we are enjoying that life and how we're learning to enjoy that life and what everything is connected with it. Important with the houses are also, of course, the planets that are in the houses, but even an astrological house that is completely empty gives us a lot of information because of the ruler of the cusp. Because from experiences, we know if we have no planet, for example, in the 8th house, that doesn't mean that we don't have an 8th house. It is still in the specific frequency, in a specific way that we interact in this stage of life. So the 5th house, the way we are enjoying life. It's very important for relationship. because I hope people aim to have it as an enjoyment as well. Of course, there are challenges and it gets tough and so on, but it also should bloom. And because the fifth house is the house related very much also with the energy of the beginning, like this. It's the spark, this excitement, everything where things are still juicy and beautiful and playful and all of these things. This is fifth house stuff. And this is kind of one of the deepest lessons. If it's some practical thing, then you can ask Tabitha. If it's a more general question, then please keep it for the Q&A.
Well, I'm just trying to understand in which way it is this fifth house related to, like if it's like around the sun or in any kind of place. That's what I was interested in. If it's like related to the sun or to any other planet, like I was wondering.
Yeah, I will briefly talk about this one, but we get more into depth in the question and answer a bit. The houses are general qualities or general actions, general stages of experiences in this life. So they are related with anything. And I will show in the example, it will get more clear that in the beginning of that house, we have a specific astrological zodiac sign. And that zodiac sign teaches us about the way that we engage into this domain. I hope this answered a bit. It's not just related with the sun. It's much more related with the ruler of the sign of the cusp. We'll look into this, more practical. We'll get more obvious right now, and we can discuss it deeper in the Q&A. So the fifth house, also the ruler of the fifth house, also tells something about the way how we make love. There's some very interesting point that because of course the lovemaking also involves other qualities in our being, but the fifth house especially is related with the way we play. And that we play in life, and that we play with energies, and so on, that we manifest ourselves as well. And in lovemaking, we deeply manifest ourselves, and we show us very vulnerable and manifest the inner world in an outer way, and then in a playful attitude, in the best way. Of course, if we have certain challenges with the fifth house, then we have challenges of being playful and spontaneous in that sense. But that's one aspect, how we make love. Also, the way that we're expressing romance like this. As I said, the fifth house is very much related with this, this excitement in love. If we first fall in love and have this experience of romance like this, and it teaches us also, if we fell out of romance, how to move back into it, what kind of energies we need to manifest to get back into it. Also, the way we are flirting, for example, especially important if we're still on the lookout for mates, but not just. Also, in a marriage for 20 years, it's very important to have this energy of this excitement, this flirting, this playful between the polarities to keep it alive, to keep it juicy like this. So to know your own language and the language of the other one, how they interact on that level, can be quite interesting. And also the way how we start relationships is related with the fifth house. I will now, for the time's sake, before we go in the example of the houses, we'll go through all the 3 houses related with love, and then we look at one example, all the 3 houses, so to say, to get a deeper view of it. The 7th house is actually, you could say, maybe the most important house related with relationship. The 7th house cusp. It's actually, if you read in astrology books, it's called the house of relationship, the house of marriage. I call it here this 7th house cusp, the language of polarization. The position of the 7th house cusp is also called the descendant. It's opposite from the ascendant. That's more famously known in it. So, the way we are deeply polarized. Here, we are moving to a deeper level in the understanding of relationship when we move towards the 7th house. The 5th house is this energy of the beginning, the juiciness, like this. When we enter the 7th house, after we cross the desert phase of the 6th house, the tough work and the sacrifice of the 6th house, we enter into the realm of the 7th house, which is there where we build deep trust, like to have a deep relationship, a lasting relationship. And the way we're deeply polarized is because the 7th house cusp describes that energy that each of us needs in their own life to balance out our individual expression that is manifested through our ascendant. Because ascendant and descendant are the opposites. And opposites, they're there to balance themselves, to harmonize themselves. And we need in our life, through our friendships, through our romantic relationships, that energy of the 7th house cusp to learn to get the feedback from the outside world to us, to balance us with the mission that we are on in our individual expression in this lifetime. So it's very important. And ultimately, this is one of the most fundamental reasons why we engage in relationships, to have a mirror on the other side to reflect our soul. And the mirror functions the best if it's opposite, so to say, if it's exactly opposing our energies. Then we get polarized the most. So this inner feeling of that the other one is polarizing us is very much related if they manifest that energy that our descendant or the 7th house cusp is describing. For example, if we have Pisces energy at the descendant, as we had now so much Pisces topic here, if the other person manifests the spiritual attitude, this surrendering towards spiritual guidance and surrendering to the flow of the godly will, that's then what we need to polarize our being. And to polarize, in that case, because then that person will have a Virgo ascendant, because it's the opposite, the more practical and structural understanding that we need to manifest in life, having such an ascendant. And if we don't have the energy of the descendant in our relationships, the feeling of fulfillment will not be present. At least to some extent, we need to have it present. It doesn't just mean that the other person has to constantly manifest that energy, but the relationship itself should have the direction to manifest that energy. Yes, that's very important, like that. If then in such a person who has the Virgo ascendant and the descendant in Pisces, they don't have the Pisces energy in their relationship, meaning no drive towards spirituality, the relationship for them will tend to be much more directed towards worldly practical experience and not ultimately fulfill them, because then the Virgo energy will drive into its lower manifestation, which is a very materialistic and overly mental viewpoint on life, and it will lack the deeper essence of the surrendering, the service towards God, which is the highest aspect of Virgo, the drive towards godly perfection. And it's the most important energy to build a long-lasting relationship built on trust. Also, friendships. That's very important. Like this, also the friendships that are the deep, the true friendships, they need to manifest also that energy of our descendant to be long-lasting and deep to some extent, at least. Of course, we have different friends that, so to say, are mirrors on different levels of our being. Yes, but let's say the core friends, for this is the energy important. Let's move on to the last love house that we will look into. The 8th house, cusp, the language of intimacy. Here, this image I found quite symbolic for it, because the 8th house is the first area of life where we finally start to fully melt with another person. Before, in the 5th house area and the 7th house area, it was still maintaining to some extent the individuality of each person, especially in the 5th house. It's much more there about our own individual expression and how we get excited, how we experience pleasure, and so on. The 7th house is already a bit much more expanded in, okay, we are having a relationship here. We build a certain connection with the other person on a deeper level, a trust like this. But the 8th house means we become one. And this is actually one of the fundamental pathways to truly fulfilled relationships, which open the gateway also for spiritual relationships. So the cusp of that house gives the energy, describes the energy, how we get truly intimate. It describes the way that we learn to merge fully with the other one. Because it also describes the way that we learn to merge fully with ourselves, to get fully intimate with ourselves, to dive into the depth of our being, to confront ourselves with all the parts maybe that are not so easy to look at. The shadow world, we can also say it, the underworld of our being. But to integrate these parts in our being means to be fully intimate. And then if we truly show ourselves to another human being, means we need to show every part of it. And this needs extreme courage and the capacity to expand ourselves and to pierce through our individual bubble. Only practical questions, please. Other questions in the Q&A. And
That's difficult. I don't know if I will remember it.
then write it in the chat. Write it in the chat.
Good.
So that is very important, how we learn to burst our individual bubble to be able for another bubble there to enter. And the 8th house teaches us to move from profane experience in relationships to profound experience. So to say, from two beings who go hand in hand to become one entity like this. And actually a third entity, to be more precise here, to really expand our consciousness. And then the relationships truly teach us to open up for anything else like this. And then the relationship starts to be a vehicle to teach us to become one with everything else. But first we have to learn to become one with another human being like this. That's what the relationship is, kind of a preliminary stage of experience before we can, on the spiritual path, become one with God like this. First, we need to learn to burst our bubble. And then the cusp of the 8th house describes the way that we make frantic love. You remember the 5th house describes how we made playful love in a way. And then the 8th house describes the frantic love, meaning when we fully merge and when it gets intense and into the depth of the things, when it gets ecstatic, frantic. That is described also by the cusp of the 8th house. Or how we learn to die in love like this. When it's not just becoming, it stays superficial, but when we learn to give so much of ourselves that our ego dies in it. Yes. And that's then the gateway to truly spiritualize the relationships. And of course, then the next houses, they are talking from the 9th house on more how to integrate spiritual ideals into the relationships as well. But for now, we'll focus at the stage to actually open up to become a spiritualized relationship, because it only starts from that point on, when we truly become truly intimate and learn to open our individual bubble and to let another being in the sacred space of ourselves. So before we go to the 3 keys of fulfilled relationships, one thing, does everyone still have time? Because we might still take a bit. If you need to leave earlier, you will get the recording, of course. But yes, I would say we would need at least half an hour more. I hope that's fine. If not, yes, you will get the recording. So let's see in the chat. Okay, we'll discuss the questions here in the Q&A. For now, I will look for a chart. Let's see. Tabitha, let's take your chart, and then maybe things get clearer already there. So I will create again the chart, and then we'll look at the house cusps. So Hamburg, and we have a Gemini. By the way, Gemini is the astrological sign of the questions, of the mental curiosity.
Yes.
If you didn't notice yet. So, all right. And it's wonderful, because through this curiosity and through the urge to know, we'll understand at some point. So we will share. We have Tabitha. I hope I put everything right, but I think. Yes. So here, look at my mouse, everyone. The cursor. Here, we see this little 5. This is the 5th house. We have here the first one, the second one, the 3rd, 4th, 5th house. A small disclaimer: in astrology, there are different ways to calculate the houses, different house systems, and so on. I'm using the equal house system. Yes, this is something that was recommended from my spiritual teacher, and yes, this is why I'm using this one, but other house systems are also valid. It's important to stick to one, because they also describe different viewpoints upon reality. We have the 5th house energy here. The 5th house, as you remembered, describing the language of excitement, how I called it, or the way that we experience fun and this kind of energy of the beginning, this juiciness of the beginning, the romance of the beginning. So it is manifested through the sign which is here in the cusp. This is the beginning point of the 5th house, Gemini. We have here an interesting combination, because also her Venus is exactly sitting right on the cusp of the 5th house here. That brings another nuance, but let's focus for now only on the sign of Gemini. Gemini is an air sign, meaning remember this kind of energy of the air element, the interaction, but also the communication, the eloquence. These are very important ways to connect on that level here. One thing that can be said is that we win, we kind of win the heart of Tabitha through eloquent communication. And through kind
Not
of
only.
yeah, not only, yeah, of course it's more vast than that. She also has here a Mars in Taurus, so she also likes to be touched, but there's another topic. But I mean, I'm simplifying here a bit, but
Thank you.
to connect with this energy of it's very important, this kind of capacity to have mental polarization like this, to polarize with interesting ideas and everything. And this is also the way that she experiences fun and excitement in life in general, not just in relationships, but in life in general, to, you know, to be mentally curious. It is, I mean, the fifth house is very present, this house of fun in Tabitha, because she has her sun in the fifth house and the Venus on the cusp of the fifth house and so on. So this is a very fundamental energy in her being described by this Gemini. How we can take a deeper look here is also the ruler of that sign to look at this one. This will make it a bit more complicated. I will just give a quick example. I don't want to blast your minds because this is a bit more advanced astrology, but then we would look at to the Mercury, because Mercury is ruling Gemini, and we look at the Mercury position, look at what aspects it's making and in which house it is and which sign it is and so on. And then we get a deeper understanding that her mind works through the Cancer energy, meaning if it's just pale teaching, pale information, very formal, it doesn't do much. It has to be a bit filled with the emotional nuance of the Cancer energy, like this. She has to feel that it has to be can be somehow related with her inner world, her inner experiences, to make a to expand it a bit more. But it's already very good to only focus at the initial sign. Then we'll jump to the seventh house. Remember the seventh house being the way that we learn to, the way that we, language of polarization, as I called it, the descendant, the way that we are mirrored by life, and the fundamental energy that is very important for fulfilled relationships and long-lasting relationships, the Leo energy. It has to be glorious. It has to be majestic. It has to be shining in the way. And also the lover, in that sense, it's very good if they are, so to say, someone who manifests themselves, because the ascendant is an Aquarius, and for Aquarius it's a bit more tricky sometimes to feel the uniqueness of their own soul. And the Leo energy as a fire sign is the expression of the uniqueness of the soul, and to have this authenticity. That's the keyword here in the relationships. It's fundamentally important, because this one is reminding Tabitha of her own trust and her own confidence in expressing her own soul, the own beauty of her soul, in the sense when it gets kind of exemplified by another person.
I
Now,
agree.
wonderful. Then we will look into the eighth house, the house of death, or the true intimacy. And we have it in the sign of Virgo here. We see also Saturn in that sign, meaning there is some work to do in that house in general, and also the north node of the moon. So there is a big, so to say, working point here, a certain need to master that part of the life, the energy, and it's related with the sign of Virgo. That's the symbol. The Virgo energy, again, related with the practical mind, because it's ruled by Mercury. But now from a different perspective, because Virgo is very much it describes the capacity to assess certain situations, to see, okay, where are the points that still need to be fixed? What is not perfect yet, so to say? Then make a plan. What is the solution, how to fix it? And then systematically to move towards perfection on that level. Meaning that this kind of structured approach is very important for Tabitha to actually dive into the depth of herself, to be truly intimate with herself, but also with other people, and to learn this way of as well, also the way of service, because that's also related with the Virgo sign. And also another aspect, the aspect of purity, is another aspect very deeply related, purity of the mind and the control of the mind, in fact. Because if we cannot control the mind, if it's racing in all the kind of places, we are only imagining intensity and true depth and true intimacy. We'll have to reach a certain state where the mind is silent, like this. And the capacity to control the mind is also described by the Virgo energy. And it's very important for there.
But
So-
this was now the Saturn, or and which house was now this?
The 8th house. The
Eighth
cusp
house.
of
So
the 8th
this,
house.
so
True
this was
intimacy.
the
Yes.
true intimacy. Thank you very much.
Exactly. All right. We can see more with in the Q&A, but for now, this was just a quick excursion there to see, to work with in depth with the understanding of ourselves and relationships is a very complex and vast topic. And already, let's say, if we get the basics right, we can have a lot of benefit here. But it's a lifetime study like this. And this is why people visit astrologists, because or study for many years themselves to get deeper nuances. But maybe already you get some glimpses here that can be useful for you. Yes. So now we have looking at the 3 keys for fulfilled relationships through esoteric astrology here that are the most important in my understanding. Let's look at them. Did I mute myself? No, I don't think so. No, I'm still on. So first, the first key of fulfilled relationships is know thyself. It's not a surprise. All the keys, they will not be surprises for you, but they are extremely important. Meaning, you need to study and understand, first of all, your own love languages and needs. As we discussed, you need to understand your moon sign. You need to understand your Venus sign. You understand your Mars sign and the cusp of the houses. But as I kind of grasp now, the house topics is maybe a bit complex for most of them. Maybe in the future, I will focus, when I talk in this webinar, I will focus mainly on the planets. But already, if you know your moon, Venus, and Mars very well, you will get to know your love language quite in depth. But also the cusp of the houses, if you want to have a deeper understanding. Meaning to study also your whole astrogram like this. It's very important. If you use the language of astrology, as I said, call it whatever. Call it Mars and Taurus or whatever. Or call it, I don't know, in your own words. It's the same type of energy. So you don't need to use the language of astrology here, but it's to study yourself, study your behavior, study what you need and what you are attracted to and everything. To put more awareness and consciousness into it. And also to know your own baggage that you bring, your own karma that you bring to the table, because there are still things that we are working on in our being, many things, and that we don't get yet fully right, that we have challenges, maybe with with the way we are passionate. Maybe there is a slight unconscious fear of intensity if we have a Mars karma, or maybe if we have a Venus karma challenge or difficult aspect there, then maybe we have a certain challenge in general open up to relationships and or to have long-lasting relationships. That's what you see, for example, if you have a Venus in exile like that, just as an example. So it's a big thing. And or if you are not able to connect with your own needs, how are you expecting then to take care of the needs of the other one? We discussed that before. but also know the wonderful qualities that you have to offer. It's extremely important, like this, to understand what you bring to the table that you already understand, and the wonderful qualities, and also what your soul has to offer. Because again, the astrogram only speaks until what we call the level of personality, which is important because most of us, I mean 99.99999% are most of the time on the level of personality. So it's good to study on that level. But deeper, once we awaken the soul, of course, there are many more qualities as well. Second key, know your partner. It's very, very how say important to bring awareness into what the other one needs, what they're attracted to, how their energies are working, and so on. If you really want to go in depth with that being, but many people, they don't do it. Many people are extremely stuck in their own perspective upon things and don't even go in this active state, because here, coming to the second key, it requires a state of active love. It requires a state of activity in love to expand with our awareness and to try to, try to grasp the other being. And this already is for many in this life that we live in a big transformation point, that they actually try to understand the partner better, studying their love language, how they manifest on the different levels like this. And their astrogram, maybe, if astrology is one of the ways that is easy or kind of that they're attracted to, but also in different ways like this. Learn what makes the other one truly happy. Isn't that kind of one of the absolute fundamentals of relationships and in general, to try to make the other one truly happy? This is the saying in Tantra yoga that the happiness of tantric is in the happiness of the beloved, like this. Or maybe it's said a bit differently, but that's on the key to it. Learning to make the other one truly happy, and then thus understanding, okay, but what are the things, what are the actions, what are the qualities that make the other one truly happy and fulfilled? Most people don't know, they guess, but then when they are guessing, they are projecting what makes them very happy. And then they are acting maybe with a good intention, but doing some things in love making, moving her body in the way that touching in the way that they like it, but it's not the way that she likes it or he likes it. And then, yeah, it will not be very fulfilling. Learn how to polarize your partner fully. I mean, I'm not just on the superficial level, but deeply on the relationship level. What are, for example, when we talk about the cusp of the seventh house, what is the fundamental energy that they truly need to mirror themselves, and to what they need to have this feeling of fulfillment in the relationship, like this? And very important, especially if we talk about astrology, develop compassion and empathy, because there's a tendency in when you use this kind of systems like astrology or any other, like Enneagram or I don't know what kind of system, to just put a systematic view upon reality, to bring in the mind and then to fall into judgmentalism, and then to put it into boxes and so on. But the true initiate uses astrology in such a way that they see where is the lesson still and the difficulties of that person, and develop compassion there, and to thus it can be healed and transformed through that compassion, and also empathy, to feel into the other person. These are very, very important qualities. And then the capacity also to transfigurate the other person, which is the capacity to see the highest potential of that partner and then to nurture it. But just by seeing and appreciating that highest potential of that being, that maybe in daily life is not always physically present, manifested in the actions, but is constantly present behind it. The quality of the soul is constantly present. And just by aiming to see it, we awaken it in the other one. And we can be a huge, huge, huge acceleration in the transformation of the other person if we learn to always see that like this. And we can, because I hope some of you experience this in their life. If someone truly sees you for who you are, then it makes you believe in yourself that you are that, like this, without imagination, but seeing that. And then if you start to believe it, that you can manifest that, then you actually are able to manifest it like this. So our partners can be huge help in that. And then the third instance, which is kind of on the next level of depth, is know the relationship. Because the relationship is built out of your both energies together. Meaning, for example, on the viewpoint of astrology, your charts, your planets, and everything is interacting in certain ways and having a certain dynamic together. Certain aspects might be more challenging. Certain aspects might be more easygoing, like this. But it's not a problem if they're challenging aspects. But it's important to know them and to be aware of them like this. And this is where, for example, a couple consultation comes in handy, or just to study the chart of the other one by yourself or whatever, and then to study how these charts are interacting with each other. It requires a bit of finesse because it requires the capacity to understand how certain energies sound together. I always relate it with the example of music because that's my craft in a way. How different notes sound together. Some sound very harmonious, some sound a bit dissonant together, but even the dissonant sounds, they always leading somewhere. In music, it's very wonderful to see, because if you have a dissonance, it always wants to resolve into harmony again. And then if you have a song which has some dissonance but then resolves back into harmony, you have this feeling of transformation, of a story that is told, of a deeper emotion that is transported. And the same in relationship like this. The challenges are there to resolve back into harmony, not to remain into challenge. But for that, you need to know the challenge first, know the dynamics of the relationship. Astrology, I give a brief overview. There are different techniques to do it. You can overlap two charts together, see the dynamic between these charts. You can create the composite chart, the synergy chart, which is a chart of the relationship, kind of where both charts are merging into one. You can discuss the moment of the beginning of the relationship, create a chart for that. There are many techniques in astrology to dive deeper into it, which blast way beyond this webinar. But there are many possibilities. And understand what you can learn, assimilate from each other. Meaning, if you know the qualities of the other person, and you know what you can assimilate through love, because love means that you are aiming to integrate the other person into you, and meaning also the qualities that the other person brings. And then you become much more holistic and your consciousness expands. Love nurtures the expansion of consciousness, but only if we understand what we can learn and assimilate from the other one and bring some awareness into it. And then connecting with the mission of the relationship. It's a bit of a bigger topic here. It's also related, just understanding that there's always a purpose why two souls fall in love with each other like this. which we can describe as the dharma of the relationship or the mission of the relationship, is very complex like this. It's not always as easy. It's something that reveals in time, but that astrology can give some insights into it. But it's something that reveals in time. It's related also with something that we call the egregore, or the heart of the relationship. And if we connect with that third instance, viewing the relationship as a baby, something that is created, that is beyond our own individual and the individual of the other person, is a third entity that has a certain dharma as well, like this. And then to nurture it, to give it the right amount of nutrition, sunlight, or whatever it needs to grow to its full potential and to manifest its mission. These are the 3 keys I want to give you. And of course, to know all of that deeper, I'm now wanting to give you a gift only for you. So we are, how many? 13, some left already, but of course also the ones that left but will receive the recording. They also have the gift, which is a little bit insane amount of reduction for the consultations which I give. It's a Valentine's gift I give to you. It's 77.7% reduction on all astrological consultations I give for the entire month of February as a Valentine's gift. If you use this code Valentine24 on my website, you find here, and you can have a consultation one-to-one with me to get a deeper sense of your love language, or a 2-to-1 consultation as a couple, which is one of my absolute dearest to my heart things to do. It's very precious. Just go on the website. If you book a consultation, put this code Valentine24 and you will get this insane reduction. To make a little bit of advertisement, also to give you the opportunity to go much deeper into it and to actually transform things. So if you want to make a screenshot, you can make a screenshot or make a photo like this. Yes, I keep it only until the end of February. So yes, I hope some of you will benefit from this. Yes, so I'll leave it for a second for you to be able to make a picture or to make a screenshot to know the code, because I will not post it in the Telegram group, for example. This is really only for you. And for the ones who will see the recording, if you listen to the recording after February, I'm sorry. You can still book a consultation with me, and I also have usually for the first consultation a reduction, and there will come new offers, but not this amount of an offer, only for February. All right. I hope you made a picture and wrote down the code and the website. And then what is next? If you want a recording for free, you can write me the email in the chat. Then I have it. I will copy it there. If you don't want to expose the email to everyone, you can, I think, also just selectively write a message to me only in the chat. Otherwise, if you don't mind, then you can also drop it in the main chat, so I can send you the recording. Then soon I will have I'm working on a relationship mastery course, astrology course, where I go much more in depth. I have much more time to really go look at each sign and each house and in each planet and each sign, and go much more in depth there. It will be in German first, but if there are many people, English speakers, who are interested, I will also do it English afterwards. I will do an English version, but this will take a bit longer. First, it will come in German. Yes, you can translate with AI also already if you wanted before, but that I'm working on right now. And if you're not yet in it, I deeply suggest you to be in this new Telegram channel. Actually, it's a channel, no group, that now just started, which I'm still is in the phase of the beginning, but many people asked me to do it, to open this channel where I share regular astrological insights, but also let you know when there will be next events. You can go with this link. You can make a screenshot or write it down if you're not yet in. I think most of you are in it, maybe some not yet. So here you have it. Make a photo now. And then we are basically done. If you have any questions, you can write them or also open your microphone. Now we have Q&A. We'll do it for a bit. You can stay how long you want. Ask questions. Yes, at some point I will take a finishing line, but I will stick a bit around for question and answers. So let's see. Who wrote questions? I think Tabitha. Let's look at the question of Tabitha. How shall we apply this information to our own natal chart, as the 8th or 7th house can be combined with any planet of our chart, often combo with our true node and so on. Maybe you can open your microphone also and ask the question one more time so I can a bit better understand what you mean.
Well, if you, for example, I mean, I think now I understood it a little bit better, but I'm not 100% sure, because you were actually counting the 8th house actually starting from the line under the ascendant, right? Like you
What?
were starting
Yes.
like
The
on
ascendant. The ascendant is the cusp of the first house, actually. So this is the starting point of the first house.
Oh
Yes.
yeah. So because in the natal chart is actually when you look in the natal chart and then it says like, I don't know, Mars and Taurus 4th house and something like this.
Yes.
This is not what you kind of referring to it. This is not how you count, right?
I will I will share the screen with you of an example. Whoops, sorry. Yeah, thank you. I will share with one example. I will do it on your chart. So, this what you mean, that the planets are in certain houses. For example,
Yes.
if you read it somewhere, here you have Mars in the 4th house and the
Yeah.
moon in the 3rd house and so on.
Yeah.
These are, for example, if we then talk about the 3rd house, it's also important what planets are in the 3rd house, because they give certain nuances of that domain of our life. Meaning, for sure, your 3rd house is deeply connected with your moon, with your inner world, your emotions, which is mirrored again, because there's always a red thread. Things kind of mirror each other in the chart through your Mercury, the way you deal on the communication level in Cancer, also related with your emotions and the inner world. So you cannot kind of distinguish your mental level from your emotions in a way. They are deeply connected.
Too
and
bad.
This something there are many benefits in it, but also challenges. And this is something to understand here. But the cusp of the 3rd house is now we're talking about a house which is not related with relationship that we didn't talk about, but I hope you forgive me. It's the Aries energy, meaning there is some fierceness also in the way that is communicated and speaked, and the fiery Aries energy, and also a certain fiery emotions that, and they are connected. And sometimes it can be helpful to view them also a bit separate, because otherwise things that need maybe some emotional detachment are how say fueled with a lot of emotion, like practical manners and certain practical discussions and so on, as an example. So the planets in the houses are also important for the houses, but the general attitude and energy to master the lesson is given by the cusp sign. All right. Next question. Ruben was asking, at the time of understanding the nuances of the language of intimacy in the 8th house, should we consider Pluto or Mars as owner of that house? Definitely. Definitely. 100%. That's, of course, the astrology is very complex, and each house has a certain planet that rules this as well. And to give a full perspective of that house, we also need to understand, in general, for example, with the 8th house, the intimacy. Because it's the way that we courageously dive into the depths of our being to become intimate with ourselves and other person. So we need courage. So we need to know also how we're dealing in face of such difficulties with the planet Mars, which is deeply related with the 8th house. So we need to understand our language of the Mars, the Mars language as well, to have a holistic perspective. The planet Pluto also, but a bit less, because Pluto is the modern ruler of the 8th house. It's also connected with it, but on the first level, Mars is much more important here. The planet Pluto is belonging to the transcendental planets, and when we speak on a personality level, they are a bit less involved. Let's say they are still involved, definitely, but it's much more graspable, the energy of the Mars energy. Yes. So next question. Let's see here. I see the Dharma of the relationship reveals itself in the composite chart. Yes, also. It's more complex than that a bit, because the composite chart is speaking a bit more about the dynamic of the relationship, because the composite chart is a midpoint chart, meaning it is the middle point of all the planets of the two beings, and then meeting in the middle always. I know it's a bit complex maybe for some, but so it is describing how, how they're pulling between each other in a way. So the very dynamic between each other. The purpose or the mission of the relationship is revealed a lot in the energy of the beginning of the chart of the beginning of the relationship, and especially in the position of the moon in the beginning of the relationship. The beginning of the relationship is and then the ruler of the sign of the moon. Anna, I will not repeat all of that. You will get the recording, and then you will wait about the mostly empty. You will. I said it already, but I will say it in a minute. So the purpose of the relationship in the moon position and the ruler of the moon in the beginning of the relationship. The beginning of the relationship is a very mysterious moment. It's not so obvious for always, but usually the woman knows, and it can be the first kiss, the first love making. It's a very obvious moment if we are a bit more sensitive. And in this moment, the moon sign reveals a lot about the mission and the purpose, but also the overall comparison chart. So if we put the two charts together, we see what we learn and assimilate, and what areas of our own being the other person is energizing in our being and putting in the front stage, so to say. This reveals a lot about the general mission and purpose. So I would say the beginning chart of a relationship and the comparison chart more actually than the composite chart. All right. Then the question of Anna. Sorry, I've missed the first hour. What is the house 7 and 8 is mostly empty. So it's no problem at all when the houses are empty, because we are still having this area of life present in our life. It's true, when we have many planets in a house, that area of our life becomes more dominant to some extent, because there's some gravity toward that house. But if it's empty, it's still present. And then we are looking at the ruler of the cusp of that house, as we're talking about. You will see it if you listen to the recording, as we spoke about it. And that ruler of the cusp of the house will give many, many information about how we are mastering that lesson, what kind of lesson it is actually in this area. And also, then we will see actually that the ruler of that sign that is on the cusp of the house. For example, here at Tabitha's, if we look at the 7th house, the ruler of the 7th house is the sun. Is Leo, and the planet who rules Leo is the sun. So the aspects and the qualities of the sun are deeply involved here also in the process. So no house is ever empty. It's all connected on many deeper layers in the astrogram. I hope that gave some information here. So people are starting to leave, and I think that's also reasonable, because we're speaking already since a long time. If you have one more question, please shoot it. Otherwise, I would say thank you for your time, and may your relationships grow into majestic trees. Yes. So
Thank you.
thank you very much for participating.
Thank you.
There was your heads are not too burning now after so much input. And I hope to see you for the next one, and to see you on the Telegram channel, and have a wonderful rest of the evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. All right, then I will end the webinar here. Goodbye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.